What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Fast. Today, let's get started with Mateusz Gamrot plans to test Charles Oliveira's ground game at UFC Rio. Mateusz Gamrot is eager to test his ground skills against Charles Oliveira. Gamrot stepped up on short notice to fight Oliveira in the main event of UFC Rio on Saturday. It's an intriguing matchup, and heading into the bout, Gamrot said he isn't afraid of Oliveira's ground game and plans to test it out. Of course, bro, he tapped like almost 9 times in the UFC. So I see holes on the ground, and I always represent wrestling style in the cage. So it's gonna be fireworks from the beginning, high pace, and I really can't wait to exchange submissions with him. Long time I try to get a fight with him because he's one of the greatest, one of the most dangerous guys on the planet. This was my dream when I signed contract with the UFC. I want to challenge with the guys like Charles Oliveira or the biggest names. So I'm more than ready, bro. Super excited. This is going to be a great show. Mateusz Gamrot believes he will be able to control Charles Oliveira on the ground and could even submit the Brazilian. Not only is Gamrot excited to test himself against Oliveira, but he's also eager to fight in Brazil. Gamrot wants to silence the Brazilian fans on Saturday, and it's something he plans to do. Me versus all of Brazil. I know that. I expect that it's going to look like that, but this gives me more motivation and more power. When the doors to the cage close, it's going to be 1 versus 1. And of course, the crowd can help the referee to give the points to who win the rounds, but I don't think this fight is going to be full distance. So, the crowd can help Charles, but I'm going to enjoy this. Kamaru Usman calls for Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev trilogy. Kamaru Usman wants to see a third fight between both a healthy Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. Pereira revealed that he entered his first fight with Ankalaev at 40%, hinting at a hand injury. After Ankalaev lost, a video surfaced of him getting injections on his ribs 20 days before the fight. With both fighters entering compromised in each matchup, Usman says a trilogy is the best way to go. Yes, of course I would love to see the trilogy. Alex didn't give us his best performance because there was something going on behind closed doors in the first fight. Magomed didn't give us his best performance because there was something going on behind closed doors in the second fight. This is for all the marbles. Kamaru can relate to fighting injured and the refusal to withdraw from a matchup. While many think the UFC will not opt for a third fight between Pereira and Ankalaev, Kamaru sees a scenario where it could happen. We don't hear these things once you win. Alex loses the title. We heard what happened. Now Magomed lost the title and we're hearing what happened. So the third fight, I do believe, is for all the marbles. You have to govern yourself to get to the fight as healthy as possible. This is part of our job. I think it could potentially happen because the White House card is not until June. That's almost 8 months away. So is Pereira willing to sit for 8 months to wait for that card? I don't know. I do think Ankalaev is extremely talented. I do think he's one of the most well-rounded guys in that division, if not the most well-rounded guy in the division. So I would love to see a trilogy. Robert Whittaker sees Charles Oliveira's kickboxing being problematic for Mateusz Gamrot. Robert Whittaker explains why he's picking Charles Oliveira to rebound against Mateusz Gamrot. Oliveira will be making less than a 4-month turnaround after getting knocked out by Ilia Topuria in their lightweight title fight at UFC 317 in June. The quick turnaround concerns Whittaker, but the former champion thinks Oliveira's well-rounded game will help him prevail. I'm going to have to lean toward Oliveira. I think his kickboxing can give Gamrot problems. Not to mention, Charles works extremely well off his back. He's so dangerous with that. So I think that nullifies Gamrot's mixing of the levels, which means it's going to be, if we're looking at it in a pure kickboxing sense, Oliveira, I think, has the cleaner strikes. But it is relatively soon after the Topuria loss. I'm going to lean toward Oliveira. Definitely has the skill set, but I am worried about the recency of his losses. Steve Garcia argues why his recent run is more impressive than David Onama's. Streaking featherweights Garcia and Onama will square off in the UFC Fight Night 263 main event on November 1st at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas. Garcia is riding a 6-fight winning streak with 5 finishes. Meanwhile, Onama has won his past 4 in a row and 6 of his past 7. If you look at my history and my streak that I've had, I've been able to finish people within the first 2 rounds. You look at Onama's win streak. I have more of a finish streak, he has more of a win streak. It only turned to a win streak because I didn't finish Calvin Ketter. Garcia will headline his first UFC event, but explains why he's more than prepared for it. I've always told my coaches I want to train 5 rounds. I want to be a main eventer. I want to make sure I'm ready for the title fight when it comes. So I've always made sure that I always trained for 5 rounds. I've always been prepared for 5 rounds. I have a fight or 2 of 5 rounds already in my past. We've done well in those situations, so I definitely feel like we'll be ready for this, and it was only a matter of time of it happening. I'm ready. I'm excited to go out there and be the guy that everybody is waiting to see. Charles Oliveira gives his thoughts on Alex Pereira versus Jon Jones. UFC legend Charles Oliveira has given his thoughts on a potential showdown between Alex Pereira and Jon Jones. While it's far from confirmed, Alex Pereira has made it crystal clear that he wants to battle Jon Jones at the White House next year. While it would likely be a lucrative fight for the promotion, Dana White has made it known that he isn't so sure he can trust Bones after everything he's put him through over the years, and especially in the last few months. In a recent interview, Oliveira gave his thoughts on the hypothetical showdown between Pereira and Jones next summer. Talking about Jon Jones is a bit complicated, because I admire him a lot. When I fought the first time, Jon Jones was there. When I was the breakthrough fighter, Jon Jones was there. I was number 2, he was number 1. I admire him a lot. He was there when I fought Michael Chandler the second time. It's definitely going to be a fight that I will sit down and cheer for Brazil for Poatan, but I'll be apprehensive watching it because Jones is great. But I think that whoever stands in front of Poatan, regardless of being someone who only takes people down, if Pereira lands a hand, he's getting knocked out. Justin Gaethje declined fighting top contender, claims UFC Qatar headliner. A headliner on the UFC Qatar card says he's heard that Justin Gaethje turned down a fight against him. Gaethje has made it clear that he wants his next fight to be contested for the UFC lightweight championship. I was asking about the title fight and they said this year, Ilya's not going to fight. That's why I said I'll fight anybody because I haven't fought in a long time, so I want to fight. I told them Dan or Justin works for me. These names. I heard Justin said no and Dan said yes, so we are in. Justin would be better, but for me, it doesn't matter. Both of them, easy money for me. If Tsarukyan wins, he may be in line for a UFC lightweight title opportunity. Arman was scheduled to challenge Islam Makhachev for the gold back in January, but he was removed from the UFC 311 card, mere hours before the weigh-ins. Daniel Cormier ready to crown Alex Pereira the UFC GOAT with win over Jon Jones. UFC Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier believes Alex Pereira could cement himself as the greatest of all time with a heavyweight win over Jon Jones. Alex Pereira got his revenge over Magomed Ankalaev last Saturday at UFC 320 to reclaim the light heavyweight title. Now, Pereira is willing to take on all challengers, even those competing in the heavyweight division. After teasing a potential heavyweight move for months, Pereira could be on the verge of pursuing a third UFC world title. Pereira's potential heavyweight venture comes at a time when Jon Jones is out of the title picture, and a timeline for his return to the octagon is uncertain. After announcing his retirement in June, he quickly reversed course and wanted to fight on the UFC's White House card next summer. If UFC CEO Dana White grants Jones the opportunity to return in Washington next year, Pereira could make sense for a heavyweight opponent. If that happens, Jones's biggest rival believes Pereira would be competing for a chance to take Jones's status as the greatest of all time. Alex is 38 years old and probably thinking at this point, how do I go and make another statement that I am the guy? In the most expedited timeline I have ever seen, would literally cement himself to almost stand above everyone because he would have beaten a former UFC light heavyweight champion and heavyweight champion, and a guy many consider as the greatest of all time.